Hey everybody, welcome back to Publishing Disrupted. I am Mick Silva.
And I'm David Morris.
And we are exploring the ways in which book publishing is changing and how authors can best meet that challenge. I am an editor. We're former publishing professionals. I suppose we're still publishing professionals, but we just say, formerly of the industry, Christian industry, that would be. And you are a publisher and literary agent.
Yep.
And we have one of your co-literary agents today with Hyponymous. We have Ivy Zeller with us today.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
It's excellent.
It's great we can do it live and in person.
Absolutely.
It's not something that
Local.
always happens. Yeah, it's not over Zoom or anything like that. This is great.
It is great.
Yeah. Well, if I may, I will introduce Ivy.
Please.
And I have, Ivy is actually a person who could probably write several different bios if she wanted to. And this one is from our Hyponymous website because we're colleagues at Hyponymous Literary. And here it says Ivy is a publishing professional with nearly a decade of industry experience, longtime editor who's worked with multiple presses, and also the author of Disabled Witchcraft and Undead Faith. That's a great title.
That's so rich.
I like all these titles. She is passionate about the intersections of spirituality, creativity, and justice, and is currently seeking nonfiction manuscripts as an agent with these themes. She is especially seeking titles with practical, unique, and creative takes on spirituality outside the norm and after faith. Such awesome phrasings there and all that.
I'm liking it.
But this isn't your full-on day job either.
No.
Like a lot of us, we're doing different things that we've been disrupted in the publishing world. Professionally, we're doing different kinds of things, professionally and semi-personally or semi-professionally. And I also would recommend if you go look up Ivy, like on her Instagram page, and you'll go to the bio, which I had pulled up here before, and then now it's gone, of course. Okay, and then go to the link tree. Now there's another adventure going on here. On the link tree, it says, book me for an editing project. So you edit on the side.
Love it.
There's the literary agent part. I'm just going to read these down.
Sure.
And then we can pick on which ones to ask her to explain.
All the hats.
You got a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah.
Book a pitch witch session. Here's your editorial portfolio. There's the All the Threads newsletter, which I highly recommend.
Nice.
On Substack.
Yep.
Your book again, Disabled Witchcraft, Undead Faith, which is more of a zine.
Yeah.
Online.
Okay.
Other book recommendations in your Instagram. But you spend most of your professional hours throughout the week working for
Microcosm Publishing. I'm an editor for them, and I also manage the zines.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, nice. Wow. Okay. And they're based out of?
Portland, Oregon, and Cleveland, Ohio, but I work remotely from Grand Rapids.
Oh, that's so cool.
I didn't realize they were also in Cleveland.
Yeah, they have a warehouse there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I moved from Portland, Oregon, almost 8 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
We lived there for, about 8 years as well, after Colorado and Seattle before that. But yeah, I've been all over, and publishing is all over. It's not just in a few locales, although still we call Colorado Springs the Christian publishing mecca. But Nashville's given it a pretty good run these days too. And there's a lot of publishing that happens outside of the, normal places. And I guess that's true of all media. It's sort of like dispersed now, right? Or disrupted. But so many recent changes have disrupted. I mean, even if we're not just talking about industry, but continue to disrupt book publishing. So zines, that's actually a very viable place to have
zines or
employment. Zines? I don't know.
Usually it's zines, but I have heard zines before.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm old, so I just call it zines. But yeah, that didn't used to be, like when I was starting out in about 2000, you couldn't find them. There was maybe one or two, particularly in sort of like the progressive space, like that was hard to find. But I'm seeing it increasingly.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're part of this. This is very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got my start in Christian publishing.
Okay.
And during that time, I deconverted. And so that was a very interesting space to be in, figuring out what my next role would be. I was a freelancer for a while exclusively. And then about 2.5 years ago, I started working for Microcosm, which is a more secular press that specializes in DIY content, activism, that kind of thing.
Totally. Yes. I mean,
and you also have your book with Microcosm.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
So my book came out in 2024, and I'm in the process of writing a couple more books. So very excited about that.
And what are they known for, Microcosm? They're a unique company, for one thing.
They really
are. As a publisher.
Yeah, they started as a zine distro and record label in the 90s in the punk scene. And then, so they still do a lot of books about punk history and things like that, but they also do DIYs. I didn't know
that part about punk. Wow.
They do basically everything DIY related. My book is a witchcraft book, so they have some witchy stuff. And they really like unique and practical takes on things, and that's one reason I like working for them.
Nice.
It's a very accessible publisher. And it really invites people into conversations about big topics without getting bloated with lots of big words.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I'm on the website here, and it's very punk.
And it is, isn't it? I mean, just look at that left nav.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Right?
But also their model is different. Like I've heard it said, and I'm not sure this is totally true or if it's the right way to characterize it, but I've heard it said they don't even bother with Amazon, or they don't need Amazon.
They typically don't work directly with Amazon. Some of the distributors that we work with do work with Amazon.
So your book is there on Amazon.
So you might see some of those, but they don't work directly with Amazon. And they have sliding scale rates and things like that for books. And it's a really cool book marketplace as well, because they distribute books that aren't just Microcosm books.
Oh, okay.
Sliding scale meaning for the consumer or for
authors?
That is on the side of the warehouse, so I do not know that.
Okay. Yeah, but they're really good at direct to consumer. They've got big email lists.
They do, and they do a great job of just entering into conversations that need to be had. There's a lot of queer books too, which is just so good.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I see a lot of like make your own zine here. Publishing workbook for people, build your own book business from the ground up. I mean, that appeals to me.
Indie publishing just by following them.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like getting into the indie sort of street cred crowd, which is very different from where you come from, right? The big, as we call it, the cruise ship of Christian American publishing. You got to kind of find your way, and you got to become scrappy and wear a lot of hats, as we've pointed out here. Like you have to figure out the path.
Yeah. And
so, like, I think one of the benefits for us being able to have people, especially who can come in and talk to us about this, is like, I don't know, there's the natural validation that happens because I had to figure out my own way, like figure out how to get out of Christian publishing, but still stay, somewhat amenable to projects, I suppose. And like sometimes, obviously, you're not just like completely straight arming everybody, although sometimes I feel like I want to. But like you're trying to now come out of the big Christian publishing cruise ship as well, and establish yourself. So like we're trying to find like beyond our own personal validation, obviously, and validation's valid. Like we need it. Everyone needs it. But like to ask you, how has that been for you? Like trying to figure out your own path. I mean, did it start with trauma? Did it start with some difficulty that you were seeing you couldn't make it work here in Christian publishing? Or
so to answer this question, we have to go a little further back into my background. I was raised in a very fundamentalist, doomsday type cult environment.
Wow. Yeah.
I lived on a compound in the woods with my family.
Wow.
And so kind of a wild way to start.
Did it have a name or?
So like the technical term for what my family believed would be, let me see if I can get all the right adjectives, Christian fundamentalist, predispensational, premillennial Baptists.
Yep.
Oh, that's very clear. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who listen do. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's very
yeah.
good.
But you have a less jargony way of talking about it, which you just offered as well.
Yeah. So I'm an ex-evangelical, and I will often say that I deconverted from Christo-fascism
Great.
because it was so directly tied into the politics of
Exactly.
the right, and which is not, and as I grew in my faith as an adult, I was increasingly uncomfortable with my faith being tied to the end times and the right and fascism. And at the time, as I started asking those questions, I was working for a pretty conservative Christian publisher. And I was doing a lot of whimsical work for them. I was actually making zines for them, devotional zines.
Okay.
And I loved it, but I knew that my beliefs would not be welcome there. And my body was starting to break under the pressure. I was getting migraines all the time. It wasn't good. And so that was also before I had come to terms with my queerness. I did not know that I was a lesbian yet. And so I was dealing with all of that all at once. And so I stepped away. I was really fortunate to be able to do that and to switch into freelance work. And I still had to take on a lot of projects back then that were a little too aligned with my upbringing, but that's how I started.
Yeah.
And then I slowly began to write publicly about my experiences on all the threads, and then started to reach out to other publishers, including Lake Drive.
That's how we first started getting to know each other, because you edited for us.
I did,
cool.
yeah. And I was so impressed with the work Lake Drive was doing with basically deconstruction memoirs, deconversion memoirs, and just different stories about faith that were a little bit broader and kinder and more progressive. And that was something that I wanted to participate in. And so I did that. And then eventually I got a job at Microcosm.
Okay. Yep. And I mean, we're talking fairly recent, like within the last 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I started working at Microcosm in December of 2023.
Okay.
I signed my book with them in July of 23.
Wow.
Yeah, that is wow. I mean,
Good
that
grief.
is amazing.
Like you were
because-
prepared.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many of us who have been in the Christian industrial complex, and it's so big, and it has like gravity that pulls you in.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to go into orbit around it, you know? It's hard to break out of the orbit.
That's right.
We were talking about the word tethered for a little
That's
earlier.
good. Yeah. Escape velocity.
But you achieved escape velocity. And, you know, because it's like religion isn't necessarily meant to be all encompassing of everything you do, including your job.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens a little bit by default when we're trying to be publishing people, because it's either like you're in New York publishing or a broader world of publishing, or you're in this giant Christian world.
Yes.
Of publishing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, there's not a lot of like in between. So you kind of made it all the way out, but not without some spirituality intact
That's correct.
as you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because your book is about witchcraft. Your editing zines probably has something close connected to that.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, there's also a certain spirituality about their business model, that it's direct to consumer, it's more grassroots, it's more egalitarian, it's less hierarchical.
Yeah.
It's less like about capitalism.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing that you made that happened. And I hope it's going well.
It is.
I hope after we said all that, it's not like,
Oh, no,
I'm thinking of quitting.
yeah. No, it's going really well. And, you know, I can't speak for Microcosm as a whole company, but I'm just an editor there. But they've treated me really well. And I'm really encouraged to see places like Microcosm and Lake Drive exist, because I think those small indie pockets really make a big disruption positively in the industry. Because as you both know, there's so much consolidation with the big five, and it's nice to be working outside of the big five. And I would
Yes.
prefer to continue
Yes.
doing that.
Bingo.
Yes.
Plan accordingly, people. Think about it as an author. Like if you're trying to think, where do I belong? Which is better, self-publishing or traditional? This has like, I don't think there's a more important consideration. I think ultimately, yes, it does come down to making your money back if you're going to put the money up to publish. But like, who are you going to partner with is a very important consideration. And I just see a lot of people not even, It's just like they just want to skip past that.
Yeah, I think publishing a book is a dream for so many people. And I was absolutely in that mindset and wanted to publish a book very badly. And the book that I published took me probably between 10 and 15 years to get published.
Wow.
And it changed forms several times, especially since it was in the middle of a deconversion. Disabled Witchcraft started as a book about disability in the church. And that didn't end up getting picked up because I didn't have enough platform, but Microcosm was open to talking about it with witchiness without a platform. So that was pretty cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So explain to, this rube over here about witchcraft, because I was raised not exactly like you, but,
Yes.
but very fundamentalist. And that word, of course, was like, hey, you won't touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like when I mentioned Freud to people.
Right. Come on.
It's actually, that's just the same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of cultural boogeymen, basically.
Yeah,
there you go.
And
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm always fascinated by moral panics, and my zine Undead Faith is about moral panics through
Nice.
the lens of monster myth. But going back to the, let me circle back, ADHD, apologies.
We're all ADHD here.
Yeah.
You're among friends.
But we were talking about what witchcraft is. And for me, my practice is pretty secular. And basically, it's about infusing intention. There's a lot of spiritual autonomy in that path and a lot of connection to nature. And witchcraft is a big tent. There is a lot of different stuff, just like Christianity. And so witchcraft for me is a little more spiritual practice than religion.
Yep.
But sometimes I will describe it as spicy placebo.
Nice.
It's a lot of ritual, and a lot of us are just starved for ritual, especially
Yes.
when we grew up in church.
Right.
And
Agreed.
so
Right.
that's what witchcraft is to me.
Yeah. And I mean, I can hear all of the arguments, and both of our moms listen to this podcast, but we go, okay, is there room for exploration, right? Within your particular chosen flavor of spiritual practice? Room for experimentation, room for figuring out your own path, I guess, right?
Yeah.
That's what I found that was missing a lot when it was being prescribed to me in the church. And what I appreciate now is when someone like you comes along and isn't afraid, or maybe even uses some of the phrases that were cultural boogeymen in order to sort of break down some of the barriers, or even just indicate to people this is different, right? We're exploratory, we're open-ended, we're not looking for necessarily answers so much as other questions that we could ask.
That's
right?
the thing. It's about questions. And I will say, unfortunately, because I asked those questions, I did lose a lot of contacts in the industry.
You're gonna, you're gonna.
But it was something I needed to do to be my authentic self. And I wanted to write in a way that was inclusive of all paths. And so that was the route I picked, and I wouldn't change it. I, wish obviously that those conversations could have been left open with some of those contacts I lost. But yeah, sometimes those boogeymen are a little bit too scary.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe you're selective in which ones you want to take on.
Yes.
With certain people. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so interesting. I feel like I could talk about this a long time.
Yeah.
What is, so let's shift gears back to our podcast theme, but we always want to hear your interpretation of it,
Yeah.
your version of it. The theme of disruption. So we've heard a little bit about your disruption. It was professional, personal, or professional, spiritual. And how do you see the world, the industry being disrupted today? We touched a little bit on that when we're talking about microcosm. And what do you think is going on with publishing? What do you think the problem is, or the big changes, or?
I think our big problem is consolidation, but I think the response to it has been all of this wonderful flourishing of indie stuff. And these, one reason I like Microcosm's model is it's in the name. It's a microcosm. It's small.
Right,
and
right.
finding those communities, those small niche communities, and maybe worrying less about huge platform numbers and more worrying about, can this person authentically step into writing a book on the subject that is going to help readers.
Right.
So that's kind of what I'm seeing, and what the changes I'm rooting for. So less consolidation, more flourishing of authors that are really competent and really ready to talk on subjects that are of interest to the readers and that will help people.
Nerds, not celebrities.
Yes.
Yeah. So consolidation, explain what you mean by, what is meant by consolidation.
Yeah, because we have the big five in publishing, and that it's not just that, oh, there's these 5 big companies. It's that the big five keeps buying up small imprints and indie presses. And that...
Yeah, especially if there's any mid-level ones.
Exactly.
There aren't very many left.
The mid-level is not a thing as much anymore, and it's... that does concern me, and so I'm always going to be rooting for disruptions of that trend, because monopolies or anything close to them are not good for readers, they're not good for consumers, they're not good for writers.
Right.
That's just not great for anybody.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think we've talked about, the celebrity book trend. We've talked about consolidation a lot. I think these are the sort of big machinations of the industry
and those two things kind of go together.
They do. I mean, obviously, you're looking for the biggest numbers possible. We've had people in publishing
scale, economies of scale.
Yeah, they only want to publish the biggest
scale
books
in general. Yeah,
right. And they'll excuse that because they have big revenue goals, and this is the lingo. We have to do right by our basically our bottom line shareholders,
with
right?
a little bit of room left over for acquiring things of great merit, and hopefully they'll go viral, but they often don't.
Yeah, and that's the thing,
some
right?
do. And
That's
there's examples, but often they don't.
increasingly it's just lip service to say, we're going to give you. And I was told this from the very beginning. I mean, this is way back in 2000, and even before then, people were using that line. Not just that someone's going to do it if we don't, and then secondly, we'll give you, 1 book out of 10 that can be a heart project, or somebody who's not known, and we let you, prove to us that they're a good author if they can sell. And of course, it was always on them to make sure they were selling the book. And like big publishers are doing this, right? and selling that line endlessly to unbeknownst to them, authors who are. They're cash cows, basically.
Yeah.
And they can continue to do it because they're big and they have the clout and supposedly the credibility to do it. But independent stuff does not have that going for it. They always have to prove themselves. There's always this especially with authors, you're not given a whole lot of money up front. You're not told that you're going to be great and amazing and that they're going to take care of all the marketing, and you're not given that cruise ship sort of appeal.
No, and I think that's something when people come to me with books, I do these things called pitch witch sessions.
Yes, we did want to ask about that.
Yeah. Basically, another more jargony way to call them is publishing resourcing conversations.
Well, that's good.
Basically what I do is I sit down with somebody who has a book idea and I talk to them about what their options are in the industry. And then I look at the manuscript a little bit and talk about what might be some really good specific options. One of the things I do talk about is zines, because sometimes you'll get a lovely project that I know is not going to get picked up. And then it's just like, hey, if you want to start a little audience for this, make a zine and plug into your local zine community. And I bet you can get some higher numbers.
Yep.
What is a zine community? What do you mean a local? Where do you find a local zine community?
So most major cities have zine fests, which are usually annual events where zinesters get together, and there's a big trading culture in the zine world where
it's like Comic-Cons.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'll give you my zine, you give me your zine.
Like a printed.
Yeah, exactly. Because historically zines were printed, and now we're starting to see more digital zines, which is mostly what at Microcosm I work with the physical zines. Outside of Microcosm, I work with the digital zines.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool.
What's going on in zine culture? Like, what's the big stuff, or what is the spectrum?
Zines are an incredible range of heart projects, like you talked about, but sometimes they have very helpful information. So sometimes you'll see something where someone will identify all the leaves in a hyper local area, and they will draw them out, and they have made all these hand-drawn zines of that. So you have that on one side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then you have zines that get produced by like the Pride Center or something like that about important queer sex education information.
Yeah,
So zines, and then you have cool, funny, off-the-wall comics. That is, zine culture includes all of that, and I think because the cost of entry is so low, it's a great first option for authors who don't have a big budget.
Cost being you print this.
You print this,
Well, you
yeah.
gotta have it designed.
Yeah. You can, programs like Canva and stuff like that are starting to get good enough where you can design it, you can format your
Sort
own
of drop
zine.
it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have templates for
They have templates.
zine templates.
Templates, and you can also like Microsoft Word has zine templates too.
Oh,
Also,
man, we are old. I haven't heard this.
That's a starter. That's
but
a starter
yeah,
set.
yeah.
But yes.
and basically the other thing you can do too is you can fold the paper yourself and handwrite it. That's the history of zines.
That's so fun.
And you can print
Come
it at the
on.
library. I have printed my zines at the library we are sitting at.
Wow.
That's awesome. I think of like Farmer's Almanac and how
Yeah,
popular that was,
yeah.
right? And like Garrison Keillor. And like
Yeah.
from those days, this is nothing new,
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
alternative.
So this gets back to the like the disruption that's going on, and they're like one of the things I say to authors is with the digital revolution, it's made us more segmented, and we're more about vertical audiences than horizontal ones. I liked how you used the word local audiences
Yeah.
too, particularly with zines, and I think that's both at Lake Drive and Hyponymous. I work in the words like it's really about finding your particularity. That's where the authenticity is, and that's and that's where even sort of like the cool material is to write about, instead of trying to be the next big Christian influencer and competing with all the other people who are saying the same things. And boy, did we publish a lot of the same things. It was a struggle sometimes to make books sound different from each other.
That was the thing, man.
Yep.
So many people
because
just,
everything is like a Xerox copy of like something from
and then it
before.
chews them up, and you're like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you know, it's
Makes
too
them
bad.
a lot of money and chews them up. And
Well, it's because they're told like that's what you have to do to compete.
Yeah.
And you see them coming in
Yeah.
with wide eyes, and you're like, you're gonna get the hooks in you, and it's not gonna go well.
Yeah.
And then you're not gonna sell. And I know so many people who have, and not to say that it's only in traditional publishing, but like so many people who have tried to become that, you know, coveted mid-list author, and it just didn't work out for one reason or another. And then they go and try to self-publish, and they realize like, oh, well, they should have been doing that the whole time. Like they wasted so much time.
Yeah. And that's why I do those publishing resourcing conversations, because people usually come to me and say, hey, can you edit my book? And editing, for it to be viable for me, is pretty cost prohibitive for a lot of
Exactly.
authors. And I don't want to just edit their book and leave them with less money than they started.
Right.
So I'm like, we're going
And
to do
nowhere
a
to
pitch
publish.
pitch or a publishing resourcing conversation, depending on who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And see where they want to go. And once they decide where they want to go, I let them know if I have any editing services that could be of help along that journey. Because again, I'm team author. I don't want people to be spending money that they don't have to produce books
So
that they want to
good.
produce.
That's right. Yeah, and you have to broaden that conversation.
Yeah.
Take people back a couple of steps.
Yeah.
That's what I do too.
so what about your own experience as an author?
Yeah.
You know, being local and being more authentic and being more connected to an audience. What has been your experience? Like, have you had readers reach out to you? Have you experienced more different kinds of community that you didn't know that was there?
So my book, Disabled Witchcraft, is about witchy things, but specifically through a disabled lens. And there wasn't anything at the time like that. And I wanted to start the conversation.
Do you have an example?
Yeah. So disability requires a lot of accommodations. And when I wrote the book, my allergies were not in remission, and I couldn't go to witchy shops because the incense would give me a migraine.
Oh, sure. Oh, man.
And so that was one of the things I talked about in the book, about how can we make our spaces, our circles, even more inclusive
Yes.
to other practitioners. And also another big part of the book is financial accessibility. How can we not spend? So witchcraft, just like any spiritual path, has a capitalist arm where it's like, well, if you buy all of these pretty crystals, if you buy all these books, that's going to make you a good witch. And it's like, no, you can just use what you have and you can still practice. Like, spiritual practice should not have a cost of entry.
It's not just an arm, it's like more like a dimension. Capitalism is like it kind of penetrates, and how do you, it's like if an arm you can cut off, but a dimension is like
you can't. No.
Takes over the entire body. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's good.
So your experience in getting this book out there like that, how's that been for you?
It's been really good. The response has been excellent. I sold through my first print run. And one of my most favorite moments was I had Googled my book just because I was curious, and it had been out for a while. And I found this little Reddit thread, and it was a bunch of people talking about my book.
Sweet.
And they were just like, this was the book that we've always wanted and always needed. And so that was really, that was the sweetest.
Like people you don't even know.
Exactly.
That's so awesome.
It really did my heart good.
Yeah.
And something that I tell authors at the beginning of their journeys is that with conversations and books, you are entering a conversation. You're not going to have a completely original idea, but what you can have is your own lived experience and bring that to bear.
Right.
And that's how you enter the conversation.
And it's not comprehensive. It doesn't need to be.
Exactly.
That's not the point. Yeah.
A lot
really
of people
like
want to be comprehensive, and that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
You don't need to just be yourself.
Yeah. Recognize that there's going to be resistance, and maybe try to hear some of those arguments and questions up front, right? So you can address them in your book. That's really powerful. And I mean, that's an editing task, right? That's what you do in the editing role. But like recognizing that there's going to be resistance and then taking it on effectively like that. I mean, that's good communication, right?
Exactly.
It's just a very basic, give and take kind of relationship that you're trying to create with people, with your readers on the page. Like, and that's a journey. Personally, that's been a journey for, all of us, but like professionally, how to now effectively do that on the page in a book for people who are interested in that topic, how to find those people, how to connect with them. There's existing structures of communities, local communities, online communities that you can tap into to share your message with, and you just have to be open to finding them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sorry, I got on a soapbox there.
No.
That was a good soapbox.
This exists, people, and it's valuable, and it's a viable option. And I just love the fact that you're kind of a representative, like a witness to what's actually happening in the larger world.
Yeah.
Right?
It's been an honor to be a part of it.
At the ground level kind of too.
I like what you said, like the entry level, the cost entry level for zines to be pretty low. I'd like to actually also talk about your Substack.
Yeah.
That's a low cost entry. Do you charge for, optionally charge for?
So I optionally charge, and if you are, and this is new, if you're a paid subscriber, you get a zine every month or something like that, where I will make something digital extra.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's kind of what we do. But on the free side, about every week I do a random spiritual practice, which is usually whatever my ADHD is hyperfixated on. And then, and I just sort of info dump about that and then tie it back to spirituality and then encourage discussion in the comments when that happens. And
They're not
I love
long
that.
pieces.
Nope. They're little rituals.
Yeah. And I've talked to Ivy about, can you turn those into long pieces? Like
everything's spiritual.
I mean, we're talking about
right? Everything.
How would we say it? Like disabled, witchy, devotional.
Yeah. I would love
to. Can you use witch and devotional in the same?
I would argue you can.
Please, let's try. What's stopping us? They're just words.
No one's stopping.
I kind of humorously. So my first job in Christian publishing was devotional zines, and they were 90-day zines.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
My first book was a 90-day witchcraft thing.
Oh,
cool. So I'm a devotional writer. I'm just not Christian.
And that doesn't stop.
Right.
That doesn't stop.
Right.
So I just want to read for everybody some of the titles of Ivy's Substack. You said the spiritual practice ones are more on the side, right?
Yeah.
More what comes to mind.
Yeah.
But you don't stop. You put it on there when you've got something. You're like, let me note that one down. Yeah. So secular-ish prayer as a spiritual practice. Remembering as a spiritual practice. resistance as a spiritual practice.
This is amazing.
Words as a spiritual practice. Archetypes as a spiritual practice.
Tell me about hyperfixation,
and this
too.
has been going on a long time.
Yeah, and I don't mean to derail the conversation. I mean to like expand it. But like the hyperfixations that you were not able to like explore, I guess, in the actual devotional market, right? You have to talk about Jesus. You have to talk about the, I don't know what, 4 spiritual laws or something. Yeah. Like this is outside the box. This is taking the baby out of the church walls, right? And saying like there is what Richard Rohr calls Christ consciousness, universal Christ consciousness in all things. Like, can we explore this at all? Yeah. People are scared of that, right?
Botanical encyclopedias as a spiritual practice. I think you picked one up, didn't you?
I did.
I was sitting in the library and I thought I saw one.
Yes.
But your hyperfixation is calling you and you decided to listen to it.
Die as a spiritual practice. We're doing answer and call here.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like I want to have her explain this to me.
As in colored dyes.
Yes.
As a spiritual practice, not dye as a spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Colored dyes. Oh, right. Like dyeing fabrics or something.
One of my hobbies is I take natural materials and I dye various pieces of clothing and such. Nice. And that's something I do. I wish I could do it more. It usually happens about once a year.
Yeah. It's a process. Yeah.
You're also good with, how am I going to say this? Like some of your Instagram posts, you're made up. How would you characterize it?
Yeah, so my brand is spirituality, creativity, and justice, and that includes what I wear and a lot of whimsy in the makeup looks, and that actually ties back to witchcraft because there's this type of magic called glamour magic or clothing magic or color magic, and basically it's infusing intention with what you're doing. So if I'm wearing something on my Instagram, there is absolutely 100% intention behind it. Every piece that it shows up. I love thrifting and finding weird stuff.
Totally.
Yeah.
When are you going to throw a party at your house and invite us over?
That's amazing. I'll do cosplay. I lived in West Hollywood for a long time, and so like the guys would come in. I worked at a bar. I was a bartender, and they would come in half drag basically because they had already been performing like most of the evening, and they'd come in. I had the day shift, and still makeup and stuff, but they'd have the wig off, and they'd ask me why I was not gay, and I'd say I don't know. I don't know why. You tell me. Like they were convinced I was. But like, it was always this thing that like there's these two worlds that exist, right? Yeah. Simultaneously and don't understand each other. But that was my first introduction to like, you can get this life experience from cosplay or like just being someone else for a while. Like you can learn about who you actually are, your own identity from being someone else or like role playing, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way,
oh, absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
I have a post coming out in a couple of weeks about D&D, so TTRPG role-playing games, and how they can be a spiritual practice, because I know this will probably come as a shock, but I am actually right now in my first D&D campaign ever. Nice. Okay. It was super forbidden when I was growing up. And
I could not touch it.
But now I am in a group with a very it's a diverse group of people, and I love that. And so we're doing a D&D campaign in a fantasy world, and I am playing Lark Rosebranch, an elf druid.
Oh, so sweet. Come on, that's got to be fun.
Is that something you picked?
That is, yeah.
So you have a campaign person,
yes,
right?
So I have the DM, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
You devised that name, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My next book is about names.
That'd be so fun. Your next book is about names?
About names, yeah.
Like choosing names?
Yes, about choosing my name. So Ivy is a chosen name for me.
Okay. Yep.
And I specifically, it's looking at nature names. So I have been diving into all kinds of botanical encyclopedias and astronomy encyclopedias. And I got a bunch of bird ones today.
Nice. Wow. I love this because I worked on a book that was talking about how God names us. Like this is a trope in evangelical culture that God names us and gives us a bunch of names, and we give God a bunch of names, and there have been whole books written about this. But to give yourself your own name, now you're getting into something that would be relegated to the dark side, right? Because you're choosing either against God or not consulting him.
Yeah.
So like choosing your own name, I think is a very interesting concept.
And in the book, I'm including a ritual about changing your name, because I think that spirituality can be a part of that. And I think there's a false dichotomy around choosing your own name versus God,
Totally.
whereas I think they can come together.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm excited to share more about that as I have more updates.
That's very cool. I'll want to read that. Wow, I need to do some research on you when I go home, because there's a lot of stuff that I missed. I kind of scratched the surface, of course, because, we try to make sure our guests feel welcome. But, like, you have so much to get interested in that I, didn't know where to look. There's just all these places. And I love that David found you, or you found David, and, you guys get to work together. And so, yeah, I'm hopeful we can continue our relationship.
I have one more question, and you've kind of answered the third part of our podcast format already. Like, what's the disrupting you're doing? I think it's just been evident since the very beginning of this chat. But how would you like to grow professionally?
Yeah, I am loving being a literary agent. That's a newer development, and that's something I had wanted to do for most of my career. I also just really love creating books and developing books. And so basically the area I want to be more in is that development and acquisition side. And because I love helping people figure out where their books can land, and being a literary agent is a really great way to do that.
And so when you say development part,
yes.
you mean helping an author who's trying to get a book deal develop their book.
Exactly.
Like their concept better.
And at work, that means books. I develop books in-house as well. So I will get assigned books, and I get to develop some really cool ones. One that I helped develop just recently went to print. It's called Indigenous Punk. And it's an encyclopedic resource of all kinds of Indigenous punk bands.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Okay, wait a minute.
I don't even know.
I'm going to have to re-listen. I'm going to listen to this whole podcast
That's
again.
that's created a new category in my brain. I don't even know where to start with that. That's awesome.
I call my newsletter All the Threads because there's a lot of threads in my life. It's like a variegated ball of yarn.
Keep doing it. So then you have a new book in the works, right?
Yep.
And then does that have an on sale date, a release date yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
But once I have that, I will definitely let you both know.
What can you say about it?
Mostly what I've said. It's a book about nature names.
Okay.
And then I'm also working.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're good. And it's I'm also working on a book about witchcraft and being genderqueer.
Nice.
So they're two at the same time.
Right.
And the best place for people to find you?
So my Linktree has most of the links. So linktree.com/Ivy Zeller. And then on Instagram, I'm ivy.nyx.zeller, Zeller.
Nice. And then they can find you there.
They can.
Man, there's so much more we could talk about. I feel like this should be a two-parter. Like, will you come back?
Absolutely.
This was so fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And people listening, like, I know there's a lot here to digest, and certainly we're busy people, but I was just reminded recently, and I think, David, you sort of touched on this too earlier when we were talking, like, there's just a lot that you have to unplug from in order to, like, plug into the stuff that you are choosing, that you want to explore. And if you're hearing that voice in your head that's like, I don't know, it's interesting, but I'm not sure about it. Well, just follow it, like you're doing with names. Like, follow that hyperfixation, right? Maybe it's not hyper for you. Maybe you're neurotypical and you just feel a curiosity. Follow that curiosity. Look this up. This person's very interesting. She's got a lot of ideas, and there's things that we could like, I don't know, even if it's just constructive, like, disagreement or disrupting you in some way, like you're just acknowledging this and following it. I mean, just be humble with that, right?
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm saying.
And unplug, but you're not leaving community necessarily. You're trying to go find more. I don't want to use the typical overused words, but
jargon.
You're trying to find. I mean, there's other kinds of community to be had out there.
Yeah.
In terms of size and structure and color and we've all lived in a world. We're all plugged into a world that
get to know something different.
Yeah.
Makes life bigger and longer and fuller and richer. Like all the descriptions that you've given us. I mean, you've given so much word and language to things that I've felt, and I still struggle to kind of untether from my old language and just be able to describe. So I think you're coming from a very enlightened place, and you have a lot to teach. So it's very cool.
Cheers to liberation all around.
There you go.
Here, here, yes. And I mean, you're just personally interesting too. So please do come back.
Will do.
All right, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.